Good morning, Valdemar. Just by the way, really, really cool name. That's awesome. So in regards to your question about cron and email, after migrating your hosting, you're not alone. This is a really common issue, actually, and one which we're actively working to make a little bit easier. But in the meantime, here are some things that you can do in order to check to see and verify that everything is set up correctly so that you're good to send email. By the way, I'm not familiar with the hosting or service. If that's just like as a typical email service or like a hosting provided email service, I would recommend against that. I would invest in a proper transactional email service like MAILHAWK, Sendgrid, AWS SES. You're going to get much better performance, and you're not going to run into a lot of pitfalls that comes with using email hosted by hosting companies, which terribly has really bad deliverability and a lot of limitations. So that's my 2 cents on that. But in terms of actually just getting emails to send in the first place, a couple things you should check. Number one is if you go to Groundhogg Tools and then Cron Setup, there will be a setup process, a guided setup process there. If you are not seeing these three green check marks here, that means that something was either not set up or something is not working with your cron setup. So number one is I would go through this process, just make sure that everything's green. And if it's not green and you can't get it to be green, then move on to step two. So step two would be to investigate if something is preventing your cron job, wherever you set that up, hopefully cronjob.org. So if you set it up there and it's not reaching the server essentially, or it's not reaching the actual file and actually initiating the queue process to send all those emails, then you're probably running into some sort of caching issue. We have a comprehensive caching compatibility. So if you're using any sort of caching plugins, or maybe your host is providing some level of caching, you have to make sure that you exclude a few things in order to make sure that it's all going to work fine. So that is here. You can just on our help.org or help.groundhogg.io, you can just search for caching. It's right there. And then if none of that works, I don't know if you're using Cloudflare or not, but I would follow up with looking at our Cloudflare compatibility as well, because there's some specific things that you need to set up in Cloudflare in order to ensure that the dynamicness of Groundhogg on your website is preserved, even with heavy Cloudflare caching going on. So those would be the 3 steps that I would take just to double check. And if all else fails, you can submit a support ticket to our team and we will do the debugging for you and look into it and make sure that your emails are going out on time.